Hello again, and thank you for joining me in today's lesson. Today we're going to discuss about the elephant and the rider, and probably this is my favorite subject of all times. People have been trying for a long time to understand why our minds behave in such mysterious ways. Now, the human brain is one of the most fascinating organs. The brain has as many neurons as there are stars in the galaxy and consumes 20% of your body's energy. It is the command center of the body, and it makes it possible to carry out all your daily activities. Now, to simplify things and to understand better how our brain works, we're turning to neuroscience and psychology. So instead of talking about different parts of the brain, we're going to talk about two characters that live in our heads. Now, this metaphor was first introduced by the psychologist Jonathan Haidt in his book, The Happiness Hypothesis. Now, if you look on the picture on the right-hand side of the screen, you can see the elephant, you can see the rider sitting on top of the elephant, and we can see the path. The path basically is our environment, and that will play a key role in our decisions, in our choices. But we're not going to concentrate on the path today. You will see examples of how the environment affects our decisions in the exercise chapter and in the diet chapter. But for today, we're just going to concentrate on the elephant and the rider. The first character is the elephant, which anatomically in our brains would correspond to our reptilian brain or brainstem and the cerebellum and the limbic system. The elephant symbolizes our emotional, behavioral, and instinctive part. The elephant is a simple, primitive, old creature that has no verbal functions. Emotions and feelings is the way the elephant communicates. And he is concerned with our survival, connection with other people, and reproduction. The elephant lives permanently in the present. He looks after our safety, he spots threats, and he reacts accordingly. Now, this is done on autopilot. You don't need to think about it. The second character is the rider. Now, as we saw in the picture on the first slide, the rider sits on top of the elephant, and he is being in charge most of the time. The rider corresponds to our neocortex, and especially the prefrontal cortex. The rider represents our rational and logical side. The rider has superior skills. He has the ability to use words. He can plan. He can solve problems. He can collaborate with other people. He can travel in time. He can remember the past and he can anticipate the future. But more importantly, he has the ability to inhibit our emotional drive, which basically allows us to be civilized. When your boss is pressing you hard on your deadline or on your project, the elephant has the urge or impulse of telling your boss what he really thinks of him. But the rider keeps it under control, because then you might lose your job and you won't have a roof over your head anymore or food on the table. This theory about having two minds, emotional and logical, was validated by Daniel Kahneman, a psychologist that won a Nobel Prize in 2002 for his findings. He basically proved that we have two systems of thinking, System 1 and System 2. System 1 is fast, instinctive, and emotional, and System 2 is slower, is more deliberate, and logical. So basically this is the same analogy as Jonathan Haidt, the elephant and the rider. Now, Kahneman demonstrated through his research that all our decisions, even if they are taken with the occasional participation of the rider, they are taken by the elephant. So this theory demonstrates that we don't work as computers, balancing statistics and then making the best decisions on the available data. but we come with an emotional charge in everything we do. Most decisions that we make have an emotional basis, from the expensive shoes that you bought one night when you were scrolling the internet, to the house you bought, to the food we eat, to the amount of exercise we do. You will notice that only after a decision was made, we tend to create rational reasons for it. We tend to rationalize our decisions. The shoes that you bought, they really look good. You tell yourself, even if they cost half your salary, you deserve to be spoiled with some nice shoes. You had a rough day, you worked hard, you deserve a piece of cake. If I eat these 2 cookies, it's fine, I will exercise more tomorrow. The Costa coffee costs you £3 when you can have it at home for a fraction of the cost. Of course, but you cannot match the taste of Costa coffee. Emotions and feelings are a strong trigger for food choices. Whether we are sad, happy, lonely, anxious, angry, or we are celebrating, we use food and drinks as a way to cope with these emotions. A lot of the things that we humans do on a daily basis comes down to 2 simple things: looking for pleasures and avoiding pain. And I don't mean necessarily physical pain. Criticism, rejection, shame, being excluded from a group, it is still pain. And we have learned a long time ago that food and drinks can provide pleasure, and we tend to use them for reasons beyond than just hunger and thirst. And this is how we end up with having those extra pounds. As we mentioned earlier, the rider is in control for most of the time. But if we're faced with the situation that the elephant perceives as a threat, like a deadline at work, or argument with a colleague or partner, or financial difficulties, the elephant steals the control from the rider, and we lose our complex cognition and the ability to make rational decisions. This is called emotional hijacking. I will explain that shortly. Also, anytime the elephant and the rider disagree about which direction to go or which decision to make, the rider is going to lose most of the time. This is especially true when we are tired, angry, anxious, or sad. For example, when you're coming home from work, you sit on the sofa and you turn on the TV. You're not in the mood for cooking a healthy meal, so you opt for a quick fix or a ready meal or snacks that are full of fat and sugar. And that, by the way, is the favorite food of the elephant. And you do that just to try to make you feel better for the moment. We need to keep in mind that the rider is only able to use his superior skills as long as the elephant is calm. Now we're going to look at a few key differences between the elephant and the rider. The rider is flexible and open-minded. The neocortex is the part of our brain that frequently wonders what if and allows us to use our imagination. In contrast, the elephant is rigid and conservative. For example, if we have a certain belief that served us good for many years, even if we hear compelling evidence against it, we're not emotionally willing to change our belief straight away. The elephant consumes little energy because he does things on autopilot, like breathing, walking, driving, brushing your teeth, all things that are automated. You don't have to think about them. On the other hand, the rider's energy, focus, and self-control is limited. You can't do math problems for more than a certain amount of time, or write poetry, or learn laws, or fight that cookie in front of you for too long without getting tired. Even if you are mentally tired, you are still able to function because the elephant is running in the background. The difference is you won't be very productive. That's why rest and sleep are very important. The rider wants us to thrive and do better. The elephant is more focused on negative information. He doesn't want us to be any worse than we are in this moment. Remember, he lives constantly in the present. He is not the negative character. He is only preoccupied with our survival. This is especially important in the context of a diet or calorie restrictions. The elephant will see the calorie reduction as a threat to survival. Oh, looks like the food is hard to find. We better conserve our energy and our stores of fat. And as a consequence, our basal metabolic rate will decrease, and it will be harder and harder to lose weight using the same approach. We basically hit a plateau. The rider has the tendency to overthink and overanalyze things. The elephant needs directions, otherwise he will spin in circles and regress to the path of least resistance. Basically, the rider is the planner and the elephant is the doer. I mentioned earlier emotional hijacking, so let me quickly explain what that is. If you run into a bear, your emotional response would be fear, and that is signaling to your brain that the situation is unpleasant and dangerous and that you must find a way to get away from it. The brain's response would be to prepare your body to either fight or flee. Your heart starts to beat faster, your breathing gets quicker, blood is directed away from the skin and other non-essential organs like the gut, the reproductive system, and the immune system, and gets redirected to your heart and muscles. That is to preserve energy and to remain focused on the task at hand, fight or flight. But what happens when a car cuts you off in traffic, or you have an argument with a colleague, or you find out that your wife decided to become a vegan all of a sudden and you have no more meat for dinner? Most likely your heart starts to race, you breathe faster, and all you can think about is the situation that disturbed you. Does this ring a bell? That's because our brain can't always distinguish between actual physical dangers and emotional reactions. During an emotional hijack, your amygdala, which is part of the elephant, in order to seize control of a situation, it shuts off your prefrontal cortex normal reasoning process. And remember, the prefrontal cortex is the rider. Even though the term hijack seems hard, it isn't all bad. In the bear situation, you wouldn't want your brain to think of all the ways he can react to the bear. Your amygdala takes over and stimulates your fight or flight response because you need to act fast. When your amygdala tries to take over in non-emergency scenarios, now things get tough. Our IQ goes down. We lose the ability to make complex judgment. We lose the ability to see different perspectives, and our memory is affected. Now, in social situations, this isn't the best circumstance. Now we'll look at few ways to keep the elephant under control. Our brain's basic purpose is to determine whether we should approach, avoid, or ignore a situation. Basically, we want to maximize rewards and minimize threats. And this is an evolutionary response that has helped us humans in staying alive. Now, any positive emotions or rewards usually prompts us to action, but a negative emotion or punishment triggers a threat signal in our brain, causing us to avoid the situation. David Rock created the SCARF model in his work SCARF, a Brain's Base Model in 2008. Now, SCARF refers to 5 basic domains that influence our social behavior, and these are status, certainty, autonomy, relatedness, and fairness. Now, look at these 5 domains as 5 universal buttons that can keep the elephant under control. These 5 buttons can be pushed both positively and negatively. When we push them positively, we keep the elephant calm because we are responding to a reward. When we push them negatively, the elephant takes over and we lose our superior cognition because we are in a threat mode. These 5 buttons can be applied both at home, in your day-to-day life, and in your workplace. Now let's quickly see how our brain is responding to threats. As we saw in the hijack slide, the blood is redirected from the brain to the muscles, and that means we will have less creativity, fewer insights, fewer ideas, and we will focus on here and now. Basically, we will focus on the problem. We keep dwelling on the problems. So it is very important to keep the elephant under control, and we will gonna learn how to do it in the next slide. The first button that can keep the elephant calm is status. Status basically means the social sense of satisfaction and respect that comes from one person's importance in relation to others. Are you respectful of my status? Are you asking me to change my status in other people's eyes? By being the person that doesn't give in to impulses, the type of person that makes a commitment and keeps it, you can raise your social status and improve your motivation. Also, as you will make progress in your weight loss journey or your health promotion journey, you will begin to love your body again, have more confidence in yourself, and increase your self-esteem. Next button is certainty, or our ability to predict the future. Can I predict what will happen here, or are there any risks in this situation for me? The best way to predict the future is to create it, and this is a quote by Abraham Lincoln. But certainty is also created through routine. You can press it positively by understanding that results will come if you stick to your routine. Next button is autonomy. People like to have a sense of control and a sense of flexibility over their life and their environment, especially when it comes to health and fitness. Do I have control over what is happening here, or are you asking me to give up some of my choices or my freedom? You can press it positively by making an informed decision about your diet and by choosing it independently without much influence from other people. If a diet, for example, is allocated to you by a doctor or dietitian or a friend, or you have to follow a strict meal plan, you are no longer in control. And even though you might try, you will try for a period the diet or the meal plan, you will quickly lose your motivation because it is not something that you have chosen. Next button is relatedness. People like to feel safe and secure around other peoples and free of judgment. The human brain thrives on social interaction. And because of this, our relation with other people, it impacts our decisions. Can I relate to you? Are you like me? Am I comfortable with you? You can press this button positively by having people around you that support you, encourage you in your weight loss journey or your health promotion while respecting your autonomy. And the last button is fairness. People value fairness. The perception of fair exchange among people encourages a positive environment where everyone has a chance to win. Is what you're asking fair? Are you taking something away from me? Keep in mind these 5 buttons or domains because they will affect your motivation to change your diet or to change your lifestyle. If you have no respect and support from the people around you, it will be hard for you to stay motivated. If you lack autonomy, it will be again very hard for you to stay on track. If you're being treated unfairly and you have no certainty that results will come from your activities, you will most likely give up. Now you need to think about your situation and identify the positive and negative triggers so you can have a better control over your life.